Hey audio geeks and audio nerds, welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you all here again, and if you haven't visited before, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different, so we're not going to be reviewing a new audio product, and we're not going to be discussing some technical aspect of the audio experience. No, today instead, to celebrate the fact that the channel is now 6 months old and that we recently hit 5k subscribers, thanks by the way, we're going to be doing a quick FAQ and behind the scenes video, and if that sounds a little bit indulgent, I'm really sorry. Please feel free to go and watch one of the other videos, but for those of you that are curious, stick with it. So I get asked loads of questions from you guys, and I have to say the support for the channel has been fantastic. Thank you all for the comments that you leave in the videos, and also for the discussion on the Discord server. If you haven't joined the Discord server, by the way, the link is in the video description. It's really been great to get to know some of you, and thanks for keeping it so chilled and friendly. I know audiophiles tend to get very het up about stuff, but you lot are absolutely lovely, and we've had some brilliant and informative discussions, so keep it up, guys. And the first question I frequently get asked is, how did I first get into AudioGeekery? And the answer is that I've always been obsessed with music, going back to when I was a kid. I didn't grow up in a particularly musical household. My parents owned no vinyl records at all, despite this being the 80s. We had loads of cassette tapes. I can't believe people are nostalgic for those, by the way. They were terrible. And we had a boombox, and I spent many a happy summer rifling through my dad's collection of cassettes, including stuff from the Beatles, particularly, which absolutely rocked my world at the time. I did promise you that I'd tell you what the first bit of music that I bought with my own money was, and it was, rather sadly, Kylie Minogue's debut album from, I think, 1987, when I was 11. Thankfully, my tastes moved on rather rapidly, and I grew up in the 90s at a great time for music. There was loads of exciting stuff, both from the States and in the UK. And I started buying CDs just before I went to university. CDs are still my favourite physical music medium. I still buy new and second-hand CDs, and in fact I did a whole video on why I appreciate CDs so much. In terms of portable audio, apart from cassettes, I also used mini discs very heavily for a few years when they were a thing. I'm very sad that they're not a thing anymore, actually, because I thought they were fabulous. Maybe I'll do another video on those. And then, like everyone else in the late 90s and early 2000s, I got heavily into MP3 computer audio and iPods. And, you know, it's impossible to overstate just how revolutionary iPods were at the time. From having to lug loads of tapes full of your favourite music around, you were suddenly able to carry your entire music collection on a little device that wasn't much bigger than a cassette tape. My favourite iPod, lots of people ask me that, is the 5.5 generation iPod, which had an awesome DAC and headphone amp, which gave it this almost slightly analog sound, and I've still got it. It still works perfectly. The screen glitches a bit, but the music sounds fabulous through it. Then came the iPhone and smartphones in general, and those have, since probably 2010, been my main source of portable music, particularly with streaming services. I've been a Spotify subscriber from the start, and I think it's fair to say that streaming services have absolutely revolutionized portable audio for most people, including me. And with the advent of lossless streaming, I think the same thing's going to happen with home audio, although for me, I still like owning my music, as I explained in that other video, which is why I still buy CDs. So that's a brief history of my personal audio geekery, if you like. Second question is, why do I not talk more about vinyl? That's a really good question, because loads of audio YouTube reviewers tend to focus very heavily on the vinyl experience. And I must admit, it's not something that I've really got into. In fact, I didn't own a vinyl record until 2016, when I got really curious about the whole vinyl format. And I went out, I bought a second-hand turntable. I think it was a Project Carbon debut with an Autophon red cartridge. And I bought a few vinyl records. The first one was Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool, which is just a stunning work of art, leave alone a brilliant record. And over the years, I've bought a few records. I've probably got about 50 or so, nothing in comparison to the number of CDs I've got. And although I really do appreciate the artwork and the tactility and the emotional connection to the music that vinyl gives you, There are many drawbacks for me, not least of which is the fact that both new and used vinyl records are hugely expensive. In the UK, you can expect to pay between £20 to £30 for a new vinyl record, and second-hand prices are just crazy. The sound quality and convenience for me is just not there on my equipment. I'm sure if you had very high-end vinyl equipment, then the experience might be different. But for me, therefore, much as I enjoy having vinyl records, the whole experience just isn't as good as digital music or CDs. I know a lot of you love vinyl records, and I'm not here to tell you that they're rubbish. I think there is a charm to the vinyl analog sound, slightly warmer sound, but it's just not for me. There we go. That's honesty for you. So the next question is, what do I use day to day for my portable audio? Well, like most of you, I do rely on my phone as my main source of portable audio. I have the iPhone 12 Pro and the Google Pixel 4a 5G, which is notable for the fact that it has a headphone jack. So if I'm using the Pixel, I tend to use wired IEMs, predominantly my Shure SE846, which are my endgame IEMs. I bought them years ago for quite a hefty sum. I think it was £700, roughly $1,000 at the time, but they have been absolutely superb. They sound amazing. If I'm using the iPhone, I tend to go for convenience, and I use either the AirPod Pros or the Sony WF-1000XM4 Bluetooth wireless earbuds. I've argued before that if you're out and about in noisy environments, Bluetooth IEMs are absolutely fine in terms of audio quality, and I think the AirPod Pros and the Sonys just offer the best sound quality of any Bluetooth IEM at the moment, and I love them. However, if I want to do some more serious listening, so I'm sat in the library doing some work or something, and I've got my iPhone, then I tend to use a DAC, portable DAC. I absolutely love the FiO BTR5, which I hook up in its wired mode rather than Bluetooth mode, and then I hook up my Shure IEMs, and that is just the recipe for audio bliss. In terms of streaming services, I use Spotify predominantly for lossy on-the-go streaming. I have an Apple Music subscription that comes with my EE mobile plan, so I use that occasionally, but I'm just totally entrenched in Spotify. I'm really excited to hear what the lossless offering sounds like. So the next question I often get asked is, which headphones do I recommend for home listening? What do I use myself? And it's very easy. I've tried many pairs of open and closed back headphones over the years, and I tend to prefer open back headphones because they offer a much wider sound stage and a much more airy presentation. And my favourite pair of open backs at the moment are none other than the Hi-Fi Man Sundaras. You'll have heard me talk about those often on the channel. They cost £300 here in the UK, and for that you get incredible sound quality. They are planar magnetic headphones, which means they're a little bit harder to drive, so you do need some decent amplification. I tend to use the iFi Zen DAC or my old Layman Audio Rhinelander headphone amp, both of which can drive the Sundaras really well. And as long as you've got good amplification, they sound fabulous. I've also owned a pair of Sennheiser HD 650s from way back in the early 2000s when they first came out, and they are probably my favourite headphones for their mid-range presentation and clarity. So if you like acoustic music, classical music, you're not too bothered about having a very heavy bass presence, then the Sennheisers still sound absolutely fantastic. They're a little bit easier to drive, weirdly, than Sundaras, despite having a much higher resistance rating. I think they're 300 ohms, but they do benefit from dedicated amplification. Neither of these are headphones that you can typically drive very easily from your portable audio source. The other headphones that I've had for years, and I absolutely love just because they're so fun and lively, are the Grado SR225s. Do you say Grado or do you say Grado? I say Grado. These are made in New York, and they're pretty basic. I mean, they're not going to win any awards for design or build quality, but they're fantastic, particularly if you like listening to EDM music or rock music. There's a real bass presence, a real rhythmic drive, the timing is fantastic. The soundstage isn't the widest, but they sound really exciting, and if I just want to fun listen, then it's the grados that I reach for. So the next question is, what music formats do I use to listen at home? And although I've got loads of CDs and a few vinyl records as well, they're all ripped and archived onto a backed up hard drive, which is connected to my Mac Mini. And for most of my listening, I use Roon. Now, I've done a video on Roon and why I think it's absolutely fabulous. You should definitely go and watch that video. But Roon is essentially my home music software. So it runs on my M1 Mac Mini, which is a fabulous bit of kit as well, by the way. And I can control it using my phone or my iPad, which gives a nicer experience overall. And I have two main areas in the house where I listen to music, in my living room as well as in an upstairs bedroom that we call the cave. And Roon streams music to endpoints in both those places. In the living room, I've got a Sonos Connect, which I've had for years and years, and it works perfectly and streams CD quality audio losslessly. I think it's limited to 24-bit 48 kilohertz sample rate files, but that's pretty much the maximum that I listen to. I'm not a big believer in high res. So that's in the lounge, and that goes through a Cyrus DAC X into a Cyrus 8 amp, which is a seriously good bit of vintage amp action, by the way. I bought mine back in 2004, and that feeds a pair of PMC FB1 speakers, which are big floor standing speakers, and they are just phenomenal. Again, I've had them for many years and I've never felt the need to replace them. They sound so good. Up in the cave is where I mix and match lots of audio equipment, and it's where I test stuff for the channel. And at the moment, I've got a Cyrus OneCast, which has been lent to me from Cyrus for evaluation. Look out for the review on that coming up soon. So I stream music to the Cyrus, which is a streamer as well as an integrated amp, and that feeds my newest acquisition, which I bought myself, which is a pair of KEF LS50 Meta speakers. Now, this is the second generation of the LS50 passive speakers, and I have to say they are probably the best bit of audio kit I've ever bought. I mean, I cannot tell you how good these speakers are. If you set them up properly and you amp them properly, they are incredible in terms of their holographic imaging. If you close your eyes, you really do believe that the band is playing right in front of you. And they come in this beautiful matte white finish, so what's not to like? I do have some CD players, nothing high-end, so I've got a Technics CD player up here and an Arcam one downstairs, but I tend not to listen to my physical CDs so much. I tend to use Roon for 99% of my music listening. I'm really happy with it. And so to the final question, which a lot of you ask, which is, what's my favourite music? What's my favourite album? Goodness, where would I even begin with a question like that? You might have seen the first in a series of videos that I'll be doing on my favourite music from various years, so I'll try and cover all that at much greater length in those videos. But basically, I have a really wide-ranging taste in music, and in my music library I've got everything from Beethoven to Lana Del Rey, oh, and Kylie Minogue, as we already mentioned. Generally, my favourite music is still probably the stuff I listened to as a teenager in the 90s, so I absolutely love the grunge and alt-rock bands of the 90s, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, all that. But I also absolutely love British bands from the same era, so Radiohead are probably my favourite band, and in fact, my favourite album, being rather unoriginal, is probably OK Computer by Radiohead. I'm sure every single person on the planet's heard that, but if you haven't, honestly, just go and buy it now. It is mind-blowing. One of the reasons I love streaming services so much is because they suggest stuff I haven't heard before, and I've discovered loads of new stuff recently, and I've really got more heavily into electronica. One of my favourite artists is Niels Frahm, which is kind of like a classical electronica crossover. If you haven't heard of Niels, go and check his stuff out. I've been to see him live several times, and he's a phenomenally good performer. So I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer that question very succinctly. I just like far too much music, and I'm obsessed with it, and I hope that I can convey some of that enthusiasm to you on this channel. But I'm going to sign off there, guys, before it gets too indulgent, and say thank you so much for all your support. Don't hesitate to drop me a comments below, and we'll get back to doing normal videos again next week. Take care. Bye for now.